Now I could jive and gab, ramble and rave, but the tone is too somber. A 12,000-mile pipeline from North Dakota to Illinois is being built, and it's endangering the lives of many. I'm here with Aaron Knapp today, and we're here to talk about the protest at Standing Rock and what he is doing, trying to help this very, very sad thing that's happening in our country at the moment.
Yeah, right off the bat, one distinction is that we're not protesting, we're protecting. And that subtle change initially just underscores the rights that people have to stand against this. Don't think of yourselves as protesting, because that comes across as negative, as though you're harming. Rather, we prefer to think of ourselves as protectors of something that really benefits every life on this planet.
If we could explain try to go over a little bit with the controversy, because I know they're trying to build this big pipeline, but I know there's also been attacks on people trying to protect it from this, and I know that there's been things of that matter in many conflicts. How has it been at the moment?
Well, I guess we'll start with an overview of the situation. There's a company trying to put in a pipeline through multiple Midwestern states. And keep in mind, this is just one pipeline, one incident. This is going on around the whole world, really. So you can always bring it home local. But basically, there's a company wants to put in a pipeline to move petroleum products, even though the natural trend is away from those sorts of things. They've been approved to go through certain states, and in North Dakota, the construction is now right on the edge of the Standing Rock Indian Reservation, which, please forgive me, I'll probably say the wrong treaties and the wrong dates, but I believe there was the Treaty of 1851, somewhere around there, that guaranteed that the Sioux Nation, which is the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota tribes, together collectively known as the Sioux, were told that this land would be theirs. Keep in mind, this was after a couple hundred years of lies and treaty breaking. They finally thought they'd have somewhere to raise their children and somewhere to be safe. It's on the Cannonball River, very close to the exact spot where the chiefs waited for the warriors together to defeat Custer. So the pipeline has come up against their land and is threatening the watershed. If that watershed is impacted, the entire way of life for the Lakota is done. No more living there, no more connection with the land. Just they'd have to move. Something similar happened in Alaska. I believe it was 93 or 94, Exxon Valdez. There were native peoples who lived on that coastline. And in one day, their entire way of life was gone. And we face that risk now here with the Lakota, but really it's a bigger issue as well because, this river leads into the Missouri, which leads into the Mississippi. So I think there's active stories right now of some burst pipelines, I think, in Iowa. So it really does affect us all. So the pipeline came up to the edge of the land, and the Lakota said, no, you're not going any further. And they're serious about it, serious enough to where they physically are now standing in the way. And at first it was just a few people, but they put out a call, and now thousands have gathered. The population of Standing Rock changes. It's bigger on the weekends because you have a lot of people who need to honor their current responsibilities but also feel compelled to help. So you have a lot of people who just show up on the weekends. It's a really interesting situation. What you're seeing at Standing Rock is basically the birth of a town, really. Because where before it was just grass, now you have a couple thousand people with a functional school, a functional kitchen, roads with names on them. And so anybody who's interested in how a city develops or the organic nature in which societies organize themselves, Standing Rock is really interesting. They have vowed to be there till the death if necessary. And again, that's not with violence. They're not saying they're going to fight to the death with guns. They're saying they're going to stand in the way to the point where the only way you're going to get them to stop is to kill them. And what this underlies, I think, is an important shift that we all need to make. There's a lot of battles to be fought these days, and we're afraid to fight those battles because we do not want to give up our own comfort and our own security. But at some point, we got to draw a line in the sand and say, okay, enough is enough. And that's what's happened here at Standing Rock. And that's why it's so important, because even though, you could say on the surface it's about Standing Rock and this one pipeline, really it's not. Standing Rock is going to set a precedent. That precedent being, what does it mean for a people to be sovereign? And on which side is the executive arm of our government going to come down on? For instance, you can't really get mad. I mean, you can, but if we want to just think neutrally for a moment, you can't really get mad at the company for wanting to make a profit. I mean, that's what companies do. Jobs are created. So, as much as you might not like the business they're in, you can't get mad at the company for trying to make a profit. At the same time, though, you certainly can't get mad at the Sioux Nation for wanting to protect the water and the land and their future generations. But what has happened is the state, and by that I mean National Guard troops, state police, city police, I don't know if Department of Homeland Security is involved, I'm pretty sure they are. They had an option. When they saw the conflict developing between the company and the people, the state had the option to step in between those two groups to ensure one group doesn't harm the other. That's what the state is supposed to do. But they went a step further. Instead of just neutrally standing in the middle of the two groups, they chose to turn their dogs and their tear gas and their military-grade equipment against the people. Governor, whoever's making these decisions, could have very easily said, all right, police officers, I want you to go out to Standing Rock and you stop those bulldozers. We could be firing tear gas at the bulldozer operators every time they try to get in it. There's no reason we couldn't. But instead, the state has chosen to side with profit over people. So that's, if you're going to get mad, if you want to know who's to blame, get mad at the state. Because they had a choice. They had a choice on whose side to kind of lean towards, and they have sided with the corporation. They have sided with a philosophy that says we're going to try to have infinite financial growth out of finite resources, and that's impossible. So until the state decides that it wants to be a true neutral arbiter and maybe use its weaponry in an honorable way, then all we have are the people to go there and stand, which is why it's so important that people understand this issue. And if you have the ability to go stand. Because yes, they need winter coats and these kinds of things, but what they really need is people. If it had only been 10 people standing in front of those bulldozers, this issue would have been over a long time ago.
And at this time, I know that you're trying to organize help to this Standing Rock. Can you explain what you're trying to do as you try and protect this area?
Well, I went up with a group of friends for a couple of days. We got a view of the situation, and it's really hard to know what's going on there without being there, because the media does not seem to be accurately reporting things. One thing I learned while I was there is about the horses. They use their horses there in a great capacity. There's a lot of times vehicles can't get somewhere quickly enough, so they use the horses. They use the horses to get messages across camp quickly. These horses are very important and vital component to the functioning of the Standing Rock protection action. So a lot of people know that they need, cans of beans and coats and all that, but not a lot of people are aware of the horses. It's just something I didn't know until I got there. I didn't even cross my mind. So when I knew that they have horses there and that the horses are lacking in a little bit of care, I thought to myself, well, I live in Kentucky. We're supposed to be one of the horse capitals of the world. Some of the best horses ever bred are supposed to be from right here. So I thought, okay, well, I see a local solution to this problem. So what I'm going to be doing, with the help of friends, is over the next few weeks, I'm trying to, number one, raise awareness at all times, but two, I really would like to get some things together for these horses. Winter blankets, One thing they really need is horse antibiotics. At one of the flashpoints, the attack dogs bit the horse, and I saw there it had a wound on it. So horse antibiotics, money for hay. It's be kind of silly for us to transport hay from Kentucky up there, but if we can give them money so they can buy their local hay, fencing. It'd be nice to get a bunch of that kind of locked together fencing donated, and roll up there with a big trailer. It's kind of funny because I really don't know anything about horses. I don't know if I've ever even ridden a horse, but I just I see that we can do something here. So Kentucky, if you want to help Standing Rock, they need help with their horses, and we love horses. So between now and the rough date right now is Thanksgiving. It's not carved in stone, but we're thinking sometime around Thanksgiving we'd like to partner with somebody who has a flatbed truck, or raise the funds to rent a large U-Haul so that we can bring some of these larger items. Number one, the gating for the horses, but then also if you could show up with some 4x8 sheets of plywood and some insulation or some weather stripping, you got to figure they're not going anywhere. They're settling in for the winter. And most of these people are not acclimated to living in North Dakota in the winter. So we're going to be working our best to get some of the supplies that might be more difficult for regular folks to get together, such as large building supplies and anything for the horses and also the dogs. They do have the dogs there, and they're important as well. So I'm hoping to put together a benefit concert. I know a lot of friends who play music. It's all nebulous right now. We don't have a date or a location, but I'm envisioning, get a couple of my cool music friends together and have an evening's entertainment and raise money for this. I'm going to Lexington this evening to speak with some people who work in the horse industry there about getting hands on some of these supplies. So moving forward, if there's anybody who has heard something that I've said and they think they can help, I'll be giving my contact information at the end of the show. Please get a hold of me. And also just keep a lookout for flyers about local events. Be probably doing it somewhere in Lexington or Berea, just raising awareness as well as gathering the supplies.
All right. Now, what's your personal feelings about what's occurring? Now, I know you took a stance of neutrality, but how do you personally feel about it?
I personally feel like this is potentially the moment we've been waiting for. Everywhere I go, and whoever I talk to, seems like everybody's learned enough to know we're all being screwed over pretty bad these days. Don't matter, and it seems like all of our institutions are corrupt to the core. And it seems like no matter what, we just can't seem to pick ourselves up and start fixing some of these problems. One thing we really need is a sense of unity as a people. You have some people very active in Black Lives Matter, and they're fighting their fights. You have some people very active in anti-fracking, and they're fighting their fights. You have people in the gender equality movement fighting their fights. You have people in the preservation of culture. All these different issues, but it's all diffuse. You might get a little bit of progress on this one issue, but then you fall back 2 steps on this other one. We really need something to rally behind. And whatever we rally behind is going to have to, it can't be exclusionary. It cannot put up a wall of separation. And that's why I think Standing Rock is potentially that rallying point. Let me give you an example. A couple examples. Not too long ago in Oregon, there was a group of mostly white conservative ranchers who decided they were going to take a stand, and I can't remember where. And they had a similar call to action: people come out, please come out and join us. And for the most part, that just went away. They didn't get the support they needed. Why? Well, because it was a bunch of white conservative ranchers. And so they were really only speaking to other white conservative ranchers. You can't expect the young black man from Philly to, get in his car and drive out there to help. Same thing's true with Black Lives Matter, though. As much as I realize the need for justice, functionally, that's just too divisive of an issue to really unite people. there's too many people who, even though they might, want people of color to have every right they have, they hear it and it just puts up a division because they're like, well, I'm not black, so I guess I'll just keep working my job and I wish them luck or something. You know what I mean? A lot of times what happens is these movements get co-opted by deep state influences that affect the legitimacy of the movements. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That happened in Occupy Wall Street. Point being, all these things, they've been too divisive of issues that most people couldn't get behind. But with Standing Rock, you're looking at water and the importance of the earth. Now, I don't care who you are. You can't deny the importance of this earth. You can be a snowflake. You can be a complete New Age nabob, and you know that the earth is sacred and the earth is important and the need to protect it. But the other side of that coin, you could be a complete atheistic, physical science is the truth kind of person. You know what I mean? You still can't deny that you have to have clean water and a viable ecosystem to live. So it doesn't matter what your personal beliefs are. You have to agree that the earth is important. And if there's going to be a group of people that we're going to rally behind, well, I mean, Native American, I can't think of anybody who can't sympathize and get behind the situation and the historical tyranny wrought upon the Native Americans. So I see it as a rallying point. That's what I hope it is. Me personally, even though it elicited my passions, I never took off to Occupy Wall Street. I've never taken off to a Black Lives Matter rally. None of that stuff. Never went to a 9/11 truth thing. But I went to this because it just seems at its core to be the right thing at the right time. And something that, regardless of your philosophy or what your particular battle is, this is the war. My fear is that the state is just, kicking this around in the courts right now, kind of taking their time. They're just waiting on winter to come. Because the North Dakota winter is pretty harsh, and there's a lot of people who are showing up now to help, but when there's a foot of snow on the ground and the wind's whipping around at 80 degrees, not going to be as many people. So as we go into winter, I think it's going to be even more important for people to go there. Because if I were working for the other team, that's what I'd be thinking. I'd be thinking, okay, in winter we're getting these people out of here. And lastly, on just my personal thoughts of it, it should make you mad. It really should make you mad. Look around. We are scraping the flesh off the bones of a dying planet here. For what? For what purpose? Nobody really seems to know. And there's going to come a day that we just have to say enough is enough. And, I'm tired and I'm going to do something. And you may not even know exactly the long term of what it is you're going to do, but you can start by just standing with some people. And Standing Rock is that opportunity.
Now, do you think that this is more of an economic thing to blame, as in capitalism has made cause to cause this, or do you think it stands outside of that?
I think, yeah. You look at all the problems, and most all of them, the linchpin is economy. It has to do with money. It also has to do with special interests as well. That whole concept of, like I was saying, separatism. If you can somehow see one group as separate from yourself, it's more likely you'll be able to do bad things to them. For instance, there was another plan for this pipeline, so far as where it could have gone. There was two routes proposed. One is the one it's on now, which is butting up right up against the res. The other, though, would have taken the pipeline more towards the city of, I want to say Bismarck. Can't remember. There's a somewhat large city close by of a couple thousand people, and the Army Corps of Engineers did propose a solution saying, hey, if you don't want to take it through the sacred ground and the sacred water of the res, we can go this other way. That other way would have put the pipeline within a certain proximity to a municipal water supply. meaning that if the pipeline would have went that way and burst, then a couple thousand people would have had their water supply affected. And then they said, well, no, we can't do that. We can't threaten those people, put it through the res. So instead of threatening a few thousand, we're going to now threaten the livelihoods of everybody downstream, which is millions of people, not to mention the actual lifestyle and livelihood of the Lakota people. The reason they were able to justify not putting it by Bismarck is because, well, it's a lot of white people. And there's a lot of white people, not just white people, but white people of a certain political leaning. In other words, they're like me. So I'm gonna do the bad stuff against people who are not like me. And that's why we got to get rid of every illusion we have of separation. If they had seen the people of the res as more like themselves, they would have been a little bit more considerate. I do think it's all, for the most part, economy. And until we fix the way money works and what money is and how people get paid for things, all these problems are going to continue. The linchpin really is money. And I don't know how that comes about. I fear that there might be a reset coming. Mathematically, it seems to say that eventually the dollar has to be revalued, and when that happens, it's going to be a bad day. But it needs to happen one way or the other. This whole raping the planet just as some guy can buy another hot rod. We've had enough of that. We really have. And it seems like our lawmakers are not going to do anything because they're making money too. And it seems like law enforcement isn't going to do anything because they're getting paid to protect the people who are making the money. So we need people who can divorce themselves from this desire for money and make a sacrifice. And that sacrifice comes in the manner of your time and your presence, where you physically are, what you're actually doing on the day-to-day. That is important. One thing they want to try to shove down our throats is the idea that we are not important, that we're not insignificant, that we are just an accidental life form on the outskirts of an irrelevant galaxy in a hostile, impersonal universe. They want you to believe that, because if you believe that, you're more likely just to change the channel, go back to work, light another bowl, play another video game, do whatever, because you think you don't matter. But I'm telling you, you matter. Every person matters. That what you're thinking right now matters, because thoughts create the world. If you want to change the world, you got to change people's minds. And the only way to change people's minds is to change their heart. So what we really need is we need you to change your heart, and then help your neighbor and your brother and your sister change their heart. That's the solution, because we're not going to do it through money. Because they already have all the money. What are you going to do? So yeah, we're fighting money with heart, I guess.
Now, I have to ask, is this different? Well, you already said that it was a whole unifying here, and that really goes, but is there any other differences with this than other types when people have rallied together?
Well, like I said, my experience of being in rallies or actions is rather limited, so I don't have a huge breadth of experience to draw from. But I will make a few guesses and a few assumptions. One thing I saw that was beautiful is the intergenerational exchange. When I see pictures of the other kinds of things that have happened, I see people of multiple ages there, and maybe this does always happen, but what I really saw at Standing Rock is it's true of this entire nation, but it's especially true of the Native American population, which is there's a huge disconnect right now between the knowledge and the experience the elders have, and then the transmission of that to the upcoming generations. It seems like for a couple of decades that was really broken. The elders were off kind of on their own little exploration, and the youth were busy with some very powerful distractions. Something about this event, though, the elders are now assuming their role of being elders, and the youth are beginning to realize like they have a purpose. And the elders are transmitting knowledge to the youth. And the youth are living and testing systems in a way that informs what the elders need to know. So one thing that is of one thing that's of great hope is just to see this larger tribe come together. When I say tribe, I don't mean any one native nation. I don't mean any one race. This really does seem like the fulfillment of some prophecy that's been told about the coming of a rainbow tribe, the coming of a tribe that its members was not dependent on the color of their skin nor their age. And, you know, there are some children. There's a lot of children out at Standing Rock. You might not know. There's kids there. They're amazingly wise and insightful. They're like little old people almost already, you know. And just to see human society functioning in a way that it felt like it was maybe more natural, the way it was supposed to, of, you know, people communing, elders telling stories around the fire, you know, children playing together of multiple races down in the river. That was really special. It really touched me, and it gave me a lot of hope, because, you know, one of the things working against this is simply the fact that, you know, the family unit of the 20th century got destroyed, right, wrong, or indifferent, no matter, you know, how it came about. The fact of the matter is we no longer live in a tribal society. We're what Marshall McLuhan calls a corporate society. We are not tribal man, although there is evidence we are swinging back towards the tribal. You know, and that's a long talk full of things that I'm only just now learning about. So, in short, yeah, I think the unification of the generations was something I saw there that might not be at other events.
Now, how do you feel about the current progress that has been occurring at the rally?
It seems like we're winning some victories. Well, I'm divided, because on one hand, this issue is really taken off. You're starting to get more celebrities lend their names behind it. It's a lot more visible now. There are so many people there now that if the National Guard wanted to move them out, it would be a massacre. Like, it would be, it would not benefit the state to remove that many people right now, because they'd just come off as total bad guys. So, so long as the numbers stay there, seems like we're winning, at least so far as physically stopping the pipe at that one location. But then in the courts, it seems like maybe we're not winning, because there was a famous journalist, Amy Goodman, I think her name is, recently was there covering it, and she's being threatened with totally ridiculous terms of imprisonment just for reporting on it. So it seems like on the day-to-day, actually there at the construction site, we're winning, because we're stopping them. They're not moving forward. But it seems like in the more litigious worlds of paperwork and, you know, county clerk's offices, seems like we still have a long fight to go. So I think if there were anything that really needed the attention right now, we need to really sharpen our stones in regards to legality, because it seems like in the courts, we still might not win, honestly. It's really, this is going to set a precedent. What happens at Standing Rock is going to set a precedent everywhere. Again, the number one issue here is, what does sovereignty mean, and who is sovereign, and to what degree do we respect sovereignty?
So, would it be to say that we need to have a big call to action of not only people with standard backgrounds, but also it would be really helpful to have people who have legal backgrounds and who have a passion to help out with something this important?
Yes, need everybody. Need everybody in all professions. You know, change. I'll use an analogy. You know, change in the world is like having to turn an aircraft carrier around in the middle of the ocean. So using that analogy, there's a couple things you can assume about how to fix problems. One is you got to be on the ship. A lot of protest movements are akin to you get in a raft with a hateful sign, and you just do circles around the aircraft carrier telling everybody they're wrong. Well, that might make you feel good, and it might raise a little bit of awareness, but it's not going to turn the ship around. And what we need is to turn the ship around, the whole ship. So you got to be on the ship. You can't just check out a society and throw stones from the woods. You got to be involved. You got to be invested. Furthermore, in order to turn an aircraft carrier around, it takes a lot of people. working on every level of that ship. You need people in the engine room, people up in navigation, people out on the deck, waving the helicopters around. You need lots of people with lots of skill. You need the cook to peel potatoes. You need the chaplain to ease people. So it's not all the same kind of work. We showed up, we had a particular skill set that involved art and media and a little bit of just helping tie things down. Other people show up, though, they know how to build houses. Other people show up with water purification systems. Some people are just really good at getting crying babies to go to sleep. Do you know how useful that is in a camp to get a crying baby to go to sleep? That's just as useful as a roof. There's people who show up who build roofs. So I think right now a lot of people think that in order to help, they got to go physically be there and remember all their Boy Scout training. And not necessarily. If anything, we got a lot of people showing up like that. We need lawyers. We need lobbyists. We need people who know everything about marketing, you know what I mean, so that we can be fighting on level ground with the powers against us, So in the long term of things, we're going to have a very diverse group of sympathizers. And it's going to require a lot of paperwork and legality and all that. Because even let's say the company, a miracle happens, and the company says, "Well, we just changed our mind. We don't want to build the pipeline," and the conflict's over right there. Well, what about the Amazon where they're cutting down stuff? What about in Indonesia and the Congo where they basically kill off native populations just to get to the mineral rights? You know what I mean? We're a whole planet now. We're a global village. So this is just the beginning of something. Standing Rock is the beginning of something.
So at this point, you're saying the one way for us to really win is that we, I shouldn't say win, to properly defend this, is that we get on level ground with them. That way we can defend and go over it. But after that, there's still more that needs to be done, as it always seems with stuff of this matter. And at this point, do you think it's just a beginning?
Yeah, I think it's just a beginning. I think there are no guarantees. Nothing is promised to either side. Really, it comes down to the issue that all problems come down. I'll put it simply. Do human beings give a damn about one another? Do we care? How much do we actually care? That's the only thing that matters. How much do you care? We have all the power in the world. We really do. We have the numbers. It's a matter of convincing ourselves we do, though. We are held under all these illusions, and they are illusions. Most of us are just polite enough to not point the illusions out on a day-to-day basis so that we can keep society functioning, So really, it's going to come down to conscious, and we've got to get people tied back to the earth. I don't know how we do that, but we really need any useful mythology that's going to rise in the 21st century is going to have to be centered around the earth. Everything else is too exclusionary, and really the hour is so late that is really what we need. Like I said, if you want to change the world, you got to change minds. If you want to change minds, you got to change hearts. Terence McKenna said the answer is to make art, and art is not just pictures on a wall. Art is dance. Art is movement. Art is writing. So we need to make art because art is what inspires. Art is what can help start to change the mind. Few people are going to be willing to go to a 2-hour lecture on the environmental impacts of a pipeline through a, grassland. No. People don't have the mind. Art gets to them much faster. So I encourage all the artists to take their jobs very seriously and realize your job is to help save the soul of mankind, because right now we're being pretty dark about things. We gotta bring some hope around. I don't think this is necessarily the beginning. You could see other indications through the 20th century as people began to want to claim their own power and want to protect the earth. I really think a lot of this comes down to a philosophical issue. Like, for instance, your sense of self. Because usually people are not willing to harm themselves. They'll harm things that are not themselves, and that's why I don't like issues that put up a separation of like race, gender, or class. But you gotta, if you consider someone like yourself, you're not going to be doing these to them. And self is an elastic term. A lot of people think that their self happens to be this physical body where their skin ends and the thing that their eyes look out, and that's their self. But no, I mean, there are other times that you've extended yourself to your family. Myself is me and my mom and my 2 brothers. Or myself is me and my block, 143rd Street. You know what I mean? Or my block is this whole, or myself is this whole town, or this whole species. So we gotta start taking our sense of self and expanding it a little bit, because there are 2 things that we are doing every day, which is contributing to the powers that are harming this planet. And the 2 things that we're doing is we're consuming. Seriously, every time we're buying something, we're voting. Do you realize how easy we could topple the biggest corporation in the world if we all just could agree not to buy their product? Seriously, name a company. They'd be done in a month if we would all just as consumers get together and realize our purchasing power. I can't remember what the second thing I was going to say was, but maybe it'll come back to me in a minute.
At this point now, there's surely going to be some people who are wanting to head down there and help. What could they do to prepare themselves before they get down there, or what would be good to know before they get down there? That way they can be properly ready when they arrive.
Well, a few things mentally you can do to prepare is go there prepared to help and to listen. Don't go there with your cause already wrapped up in a bag ready to unpack there. I'm sure when you get there will be a place for your cause. But when you first get there, realize that you're coming into something that's already going. It ain't about you. You're there to help. So realize that you're going to help, and the way you help is very diverse. There's so many different ways you can help. And the other thing is listen. We don't listen to each other enough these days. That's another part of the conflict, Anybody who goes to Standing Rock right now, it's a very rare historical opportunity to expose yourself to a collection of influences which, honestly, the chances of them coming together like this again are rare. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity in regards to learning about other people, Another thing you can do to help is really see what they need. A lot of people are showing up with clothes and food. Now, they will always need more food, but honestly, at this point, they got about enough clothes. If you're going to bring clothes, bring the best of the best, good, solid, stable winter gear. I had people donate me bathing suits. They don't need bathing suits, okay? Another thing you can do is prepare to meet the police state. If you've yet to come toe-to-toe with the police state, get ready for it, because the thing that really jarred us and made us realize, wow, we're getting into something, is we had went on a 20-hour, it took us about 20 hours to drive there, and we go through Bismarck, and everything's fine. It's just we're just a couple of people on a road trip. And then we come up to a military checkpoint. There's a soldier there with an M16. He was very friendly. They weren't mean to us, but simply the fact that it was there as a psychological weapon. That's what it was. It was a weapon of psychology against us, because you pull up and there's the soldier, and that sets the tone as soon as you get there. When you pull up, when you're on your way to Standing Rock, it's not like the first thing that greets you is this open community singing and dancing and waving signs. No, first thing you come to that makes you realize something's going on is a military checkpoint, and be prepared to be surveilled. When you stop at that checkpoint, they're taking photographs of everybody inside. They're taking photographs of your license plate. They may even have some X-ray technology, because you'll see there's vehicles parked all along the side of the road. Those vehicles have surveillance equipment in them, So be prepared to be surveilled. And after Standing Rock, there's a good chance that you might end up on a list somewhere. Not a bad list. Just they want to know who thinks what these days. The whole time, every day, there's helicopters that just go around the site. And again, a lot of these are psychological weapons. The National Guardsman standing in the road, yeah, he has a functional purpose in that they're helping keep track of how many people are coming in, and He tells you that they're there to warn you that there are people in the street and to slow down. Yeah, right. You could have done that with a sign. Okay, you don't need a National Guardsman to tell me there might be people in the street 20 miles down the road. The helicopter might be doing some surveillance, but really what those two elements are there for is to enact a psychological effect on the population, to make them feel scrutinized, terrorized. When you're in that sort of paranoid state, it's a little bit harder to think. It stresses the body, So that right there is the beginning of warfare. Most of this warfare is fought in the mind, After World War II, we absorbed the Nazi scientists through Operation Paperclip, and with them came their playbook. And so our military, since World War II's absorption of Nazi International, has been playing by some very dirty rules. So prepare to come up against these things. There was one point in time, there was a call to action, and we rode out, and we got there a little late, so the police had already blockaded off the main group of protesters. And so we pulled back a little ways, and we were getting what footage we could. And my friend had a drone camera with him, and he, turns the drone on, brings it up about 20 feet. He's getting ready to run it out over the scene when suddenly they have a plane that I don't know the technology, but it sure seems like this plane scrambles signals, because suddenly his drone just went crazy haywire and crashed. You know what I mean? It's just weird to see this stuff in person. We've all been conditioned to see crazy things on TV under the guise of movies and entertainment, to where when we see it on the news, we don't really realize that it's real because of that psychological conditioning through movies and entertainment. So if nothing else, go there for yourself, just because when you're physically standing there and you see a group of people praying and burning sage, and then suddenly there's people in riot gear with military style transport and armored vehicles, suddenly you realize you're not in Kansas anymore. Suddenly you realize we're getting closer to Mad Max more than anything else. It's really eye-opening, and it's having those experiences which will change your heart. You can sit back and read your news feed all day long. You can post really cool videos that accurately detail the world's problems, but no, until you actually have an experience of these things, that's what you need to motivate yourself and others. So I would say be prepared for that. Try to bring what you can so you can be self-sufficient. Like I said, the camp is set up. If you need water, they got water. If you need food, they got food. But still, though, try to lessen the stress on that population. And lastly, I think one of the best things I can say to help you prepare yourself is get ready to have to prove yourself a little bit, okay? Because there's a lot of... the whole camp is full of love and warmth, but at the same time, just because of the nature of what's going on, there's a lot of suspicion. We know that there are spies being sent in. We know that there are agent provocateurs being sent into the camp. If you want to take photographs of any kind, one of the first things you have to do upon getting to Standing Rock is go get a media pass. Okay, they don't want just anybody and everybody taking pictures. There were people there who didn't have media passes out there filming. They got their stuff confiscated and they were asked to leave. There were people with media passes, but they were filming things that they had been asked not to film. Same situation. That's why I said go in there and realize you're coming into something that's already going and it ain't about you. Play by the rules. Realize that it might take you a few days to vet yourself. People want to know that you're genuine. You know what I mean? They want to see how you're acting for a little bit before they just start telling you everything and letting you into everywhere. So I would say just prepare yourself ahead of time to maybe have to deal with a little bit of proving yourself. You know what I mean? And I think that's a good attitude for the camp to have, just because I've been time and time again to where an issue or a movement started organically and started genuinely, but then a bunch of people who weren't really working for that issue come in, and before you know it, the whole movement's been co-opted and is now no longer about what it was supposed to be about. So those are just a couple things I could say just to prepare yourself,
Now, of course, you talked about how people can donate and spread the word about this, but is there any other way that people who will not be able to attend can help?
Well, there are ways you can physically or monetarily donate. Make sure you vet those donation centers first. For instance, I heard a story while I was there about Kickstarter. There's a couple little camps there that each have different names. One is Sacred Stone Camp, and they have a Kickstarter campaign. Well, all these other people who have nothing to do with the issue went ahead and started a Sacred Stone Kickstarter camp to try to get some of that money. They're just being dishonest pricks. So before you actually take the time to donate online, maybe call somebody. Just make sure the money's going there, because there's a lot of jerks who have showed up to try to capitalize on this event. If you're looking for donation centers, I believe you can go to greenpeace.org, and they have areas around the country where they're receiving items. Another way you can help is to write about it, even if you can't physically go. Maybe just do a blog post. Maybe do a little video. Go live on Facebook for 5 minutes and just tell people how you care. Realize that one thing that needs to be done across the entire planet at all times is, people need encouragement. People need encouragement, and they also need inspiration. Courage and inspiration. So if you can give those two things to people, maybe you're not going, but you know some people who are. Give them some inspiration. Give them some courage. It's a scary thing we're facing here. It's truly scary. We're looking at a global system that does not care about people, ratcheting down and taking advantage of the resources that we all need. That's scary. You start coupling that with the technology, it's scary. So people need a little love. They need some encouragement, Find a local issue. Like I said, you might not be able to take off to Standing Rock for a couple of days, but I bet you a couple of minutes on a Google search, you can find that there's somewhere local you can fight the battle. For instance, do you know they're putting a pipeline through Madison County?
No, I did not.
Yeah. Pretty much a very similar situation. Very similar product, very similar companies, putting a pipeline right through Madison County. I'll be attending some meetings involving that here soon, so I'd love to come back and talk about that situation once I know some more. But that's a perfect example right there. Want to get involved in the water issue, but can't go to North Dakota? Well, can you go to Madison County? Because, there's literally one just a couple miles up the road they're putting through, and it's the same issue. If this thing bursts, it's going to affect you. You know how lovely Kentucky's water is? It's one of the things I love the most about this place, just the fact that water just spurts out everywhere. And the idea of ruining that, why? Why? So some prick can, go to Bermuda again? No, sorry. No pass go, no collect $200. So I think just those little things, and they don't really cost much. A lot of the things I mentioned just now, you don't have to have a penny. You can still do those things.
Yeah, I grew up on well water myself, so I can find that very important, especially Kentucky water. And I have to think with all this stuff occurring and all this happening, we really need to take a stand. And while there is these important issues, just take a stand when you find the need to. Like if you feel there's an injustice, you have to take a stand. And with this, you said there's a lot of issues in the world where people just don't feel like they're a part of it, so they don't feel as if they can help. Now, do you think there needs to be an attitude change in people, or do you think it's more so that these events need to organize differently?
I would my guess. It's only a guess. I'm just as ignorant as anybody else. My guess is it's an attitude problem. It's a how you relate to everything around you problem, more than it is of the way the events are being organized. When I was there, I saw, I wasn't there very long for one, but I did see a few things that I thought, hey, I bet you if we did it like this, it might be more effective. But really, you got to go get involved in what's going on there before you can just show up and start telling people how to do things differently. They're not going to be really receptive to that. So really, I think it is that change in attitude, and it comes around again to realizing how important your thoughts are right now, this moment, and then how those thoughts transfer into your action.
For the show you're setting up, is it just any music whatsoever, or is there a specific type that you're trying to look towards?
Because we're doing this for fundraising, I'm looking for music that is going to be widely accepted. I got friends who do like experimental noise doom music. As much as I love those guys, probably a lot of people wouldn't come to the show for that. So I'm looking for some bands that have a good draw, because I want numbers here. Because like I said, for this event, it's not about, the primary goal is not just so we can all feel cool and have a good time. No, we're doing something. We're raising money. We're going to help people. We're getting materials together. So I want to make sure that whatever groups are involved have a local draw. They know that there's going to be some people who show up to see them, even if they could care less about the water issue. So basically something that is, approachable and has a local draw established. But then again, there's room for multiple events here. Like, I personally have a couple of musical acts I'm in, and they're the kind of acts to where they're not easily digestible, so I probably won't even be doing my own music at these events. Doesn't mean there can't be 2 events. Doesn't mean there can't be 3 events. Doesn't mean if you and your weird friends with your weird music want to contribute, you can't put your own thing together. That's something else to realize. Is one of the ways that we fall into complacency is we think, oh, well, somebody's already doing that, so I guess I don't need to. No, why can't we have 10 events over 10 days? You know what I mean? So for my event, just because we are looking for a big draw, because ultimately we're trying to accomplish something here that has nothing to do with music, be looking for those local acts that could put some people in the room who care. So we'll see. I don't know much about it at this point. I'm at the point right now where I'm looking for the acts who want to be involved, and then as I know their schedule, we can figure something out.
All right. And I have to really say that I agree a lot with your sentiments. Just if you feel as if there isn't nothing going on, do the research. Research is always important when it comes to these matters and helping out. Because if you find something's important enough to help out with it, it's just as important to educate yourself upon the issue. And if you find that there's stuff occurring, well, help out with that. But if you find some little angle where there could be help and there's not being help, or there could be more to be gained, then go for that as well. I think a lot of people, a lot of times, don't think that they can do anything, and I think they need to really try and union together. And it just seems to be an issue with a lot of this at the time.
Yeah, apathy. A lot of people have apathy. But you can. I really think something else this trip made me realize is just how easy it really is to participate in your world. They make it seem like it's harder than what it is, or you're going to be ridiculed. But no, it's actually really easy if you want to participate in your world. It comes down to, do you care? Do you care or not? There's a guy named Gerald Salenti, and he has something he says a lot, and I think of it in this situation, and that is, when people with nothing left to lose everything, they lose it. And we're a people who, if we don't get motivated, we're gonna lose everything. We're gonna lose this whole planet.
And at this moment, that's really something we got to look towards. We really got to protect our resources and really strive to do the best that we can in moments as dire as these. And a lot of people don't take the don't take the importance of these situations, and they just put them back. But I think it really goes to show that we need to see this as important. This is an important thing for us to work with. This is an important thing that we need to really strive to help for. And a lot of people just they draw too many lines. They draw like you were saying, they draw too many lines of separation where they're like, oh, I can't help with this, I'm not that, and I'm not that. Really, you need to see the need within this, and when like you said, this is a universal need, and a lot of these are bigger needs on themselves that you mentioned too. These people need to look past these things. So what if these people are mostly conservative? If they're being put in trouble and you're a liberal, then it goes even more to help. I mean, that's your fellow man. You need to help when you can help. And from here, do you have any contact information that we'll need as far as not only donating goes with your stuff, but other things as well?
Sure. I'll so far as the organizing locally here, both getting the materials together, organizing the show, as well as anybody who might want to go back, because I plan to personally go back at some point. You can get a hold of me through phone or email. My phone number is 772-341-3942. My name is Aaron Knapp. My email is thechemicalmarriage@gmail.com. I do have some contacts for the camp itself, but I'm not going to give those out on the air, simply because I don't want to overwhelm people, and before I gave those contacts out, I would want to get a hold of these other people first and get their permission. But if people are really interested and they want to come talk to me privately, I know the people we can call there on site to get your questions answered or figure out logistics involving materials. So do not hesitate and do not discount the smallest of actions, because really all you have to do is pick up the pebble and throw it in the pond. That's all you have to do. You're not responsible for the ripples. You're not responsible for where those waves wash ashore. You're not responsible for which direction the wind blows. You're only responsible for whether you're going to put your sail up or not.
And in the end, it's even if you only can help a little, a lot of little help ends up being a big help, and every little bit will help.
Think of it like water. So much of this is about water. Water is life. That's the slogan. Water is life. Mine Wakochi, I think, is how they say it. And think about it. A single drop of water hitting a rock, another little drop of water, 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 it'll crack that rock eventually. Water's the softest thing on the planet, yet it can break stone.
I think we had a great talk today, and please, everybody that I'm talking to, or everybody that's listening right now, tell other people. Try to get help for what is occurring, and not only should you tell other people, but you should strive to do something if you can, and that means the littlest bit. If it's donating just $1, then that's great in itself. But if it's as far as going there and actually helping, that's good as well. We need this all.
And also, don't overthink it. Helping could be as simple as you just turn off your water spigot a little more often, or you pick up a piece of garbage on your way to work. The tiny things.
Yeah. Well, I would like to thank everybody for listening. I hope this opened your eyes to what's occurring at this time in this country. And this is Ramblin' Man signing out.